Since 70% of e-commerce sales come from mobile devices, and each of those devices has between 60 to 90 apps installed on them, doesn't it just make sense that we combine the two? That's what Neal and I chat about today, how companies can build a mobile app to increase conversion and customer loyalty while driving up sales and revenue. Now, what I love about this conversation with Neal is he's walked the walk, having been a merchant himself, so he shares very practical advice and a list of do's and don'ts when it comes to building the perfect app for your brand. He also takes a stab at why only a handful of Amazon users like myself bother using their app, and if you're like me, it might just be the first time you even knew they had one. So let's dive in. Welcome to Popup Advice, the place where masters of entrepreneurship, leadership, and e-commerce reveal their secret tips and tricks for becoming the top dogs in their field. This podcast is powered by the Popup e-commerce platform. So if you want to immediately apply the exclusive strategies that you learn here right into a successful online business complete with custom journeys and multiple storefronts, check out popup.store today. Let's dive in. So for those who aren't aware of you or what you do, maybe you could just give us a little bit of intro here.
Yeah, I'm a team lead over here at Tapcart. One of the things that we focus on is helping brands with retention. Some of those enterprise level brands that are looking to improve on building engagement with their customers and looking to improve revenue efficiency. And so all of these things we scope out over the course of developing a relationship with each merchant and helping them solve this with the mobile app. And so that's what I do here. I work directly with brands, but I also oversee a team over here at Tapcart as well internally.
So how long have you been in the e-commerce space? Obviously, this isn't your first walk in the park.
Yeah, e-commerce I've been connected to in some form or fashion for quite some time. I think it started when being a brand owner, my wife and I ourselves, back when Shopify only had maybe 10, 12 apps in its ecosystem, right? That, evolved into work, focusing into the mobile app space. So I worked, software sales, working the mobile app startup space, worked with the previous firm prior to this, and then wanted to focus all my energy on e-commerce, not just mobile apps, but e-commerce mobile apps specifically, because I loved talking to e-commerce merchants. These are some of the sharpest, the savviest, and the most scrappiest group. And I really enjoyed working with these entrepreneurs that are wearing so many hats. They have really lean teams, and they're always finding a way to succeed, and they do. But I love working with the persona of this merchant. I love learning what their challenges are, which seems to be evolving every single quarter, and I love helping them solve them. And so that's kind of where I've fallen where I am right now, is that I've found this love for e-commerce, and specifically what I'm able to help solve for those merchants only gives that much more fulfillment because it happens with each merchant we happen to work with.
You mentioned there about mobile apps, especially for the e-commerce experience. I'm curious to know what are some of the benefits. Maybe we could narrow this down to about 3, or some of the solutions that how you've seen the evolution of implementing those apps through that e-commerce space, what that kind of the impact that has on the merchants.
We are not in the business of necessarily selling or offering mobile apps. We're in the business of helping brands solve the challenge with retention. Retention is one of those conundrums that the equation to it seems to be changing day in and day out. And because the barriers to entry for any new brand to come into the market to be really low, really easy to launch, thereby increasing competition. And so that makes it difficult for brands who are already in the space to continue to stick out over time. On the flip side, there's like this other aspects that, inflationary economic tailwinds that are just making business harder and less profitable than they were before. And then iOS changes and Facebook changes and ad changes that are taking place that are increasing customer acquisition costs, making it difficult to bring customers into the brand's funnel. So these are all the factors that we're taking into account when we're looking to say, okay, brand is trying to improve the frequency of purchases, trying to improve the retention, keep that customer engagement high over a period of time. And that's where we're looking at kind of this umbrella of retention. Retention doesn't mean mobile app. Retention actually is more divided into like a handful of pillars, right? Nothing solves retention better than a great product and experience. That's first and foremost requirement, right? But then there's retention tools like loyalty programs, subscription, programs that help kind of drive that customer lifetime value and repeat purchase frequency. And then there's retention messaging mechanisms. SMS, email, push notifications that kind of help with that entire aspect. So it's one little piece of the whole pie, but what it ends up solving for these brands is it essentially allows you to drive more traffic into their brand more frequently than any other channel simply because of the real estate play, right? It's a real estate play. Instead of living in a browser, instead of living in an email inbox or a text message thread, you're living as an icon directly on that user's home screen. And by virtue of doing that, you are going to end up having that many more clicks into the brand because you're living right where those customers' eyes are. So I think the first benefit is just the frequency of sessions that come into a brand, something that they're paying so much on Facebook to reacquire, paying a lot through SMS to reacquire. They're able to acquire that essentially for free, right? I think that is the focal point of it. Secondary is something that's become a priority now more than years prior, and that's the concept of revenue efficiency. Rewind the clock 3-4 years, it was growth at all costs. Retention was an afterthought because it was so easy to reacquire that customer through Facebook. Then iOS changes took effect, and then customer acquisition took effect. So now, when you combine that with those recessionary pressures that are in the economy right now, that's where brands are saying, hey, when a customer comes into our funnel, how do we maximize the relationship with that customer, right? So each customer is given a lot more value, a lot more attention, a lot more level of importance than ever before. And that's where I think it's anybody who's in the retention game of helping a brand with retention is kind of seeing a benefit right now.
So I know that the big topic right now in e-commerce is personalization. It seems to be the thing that's setting a lot of people apart. What strategies have you seen be successful for implementing that?
So you're seeing, brands say, hey, instead of treating every customer the same, how do we personalize recommendations? How do we improve engagement? How do we become more conversational with our customer? That in turn is going to increase the engagement of the customer over time, in turn, increase the frequency of purchases over time as well, right? And further that brand loyalty. And so I think that's where, the one-to-many approach is officially dead. It's very much a conversational type of environment, community building type of environment that brands are seeking to create. And it's not easy to do, right? There's a couple tools that help make it easier, but those alone won't solve it, right? Brands really have to tackle personalization at all parts of the customer funnel, all parts of the entire brand experience. So even on the CX side, personalization at scale once the customer is already shopping with you. The personalization in that customer experience is going to be equally critical as the personalization when you're trying to acquire that customer or reacquire that customer, right? It's two parts to the personalization equation. First is understanding that, SMS and email is a messaging channel, just like push notifications are a messaging channel. But push notifications are also pushing into a separate experience from the website, right? It's pushing into a native app that's a standalone sales channel in and of itself, right? So that's where brands are saying, do I really just want this mobile app to be a replica of my website? No. You're wanting it to be something that says, who is the customer that's likely to download this brand's app? It's not going to be any customer. It's not going to be a customer at the top of the funnel or unlikely to be. It's more likely to be that customer that really loves us, that's a super loyalist. And they're the ones that are going to download the app. So I want to design an experience that speaks to them, where the website is speaking to anyone and everyone that's willing to buy, shop, and browse. The app can speak more in a community sense on a personalized level to that VIP audience in a better way. So the channel, the experience of living in the app as a customer is going to be a personalized experience in and of itself based on who that customer is. And then when you take into account the messaging aspect, see brands leveraging Klaviyo for email, Klaviyo for tied to their SMS or Attentive or any tool. Well, we also integrate with Klaviyo for the push notification side of things too. So brands that are leveraging Klaviyo, which is basically all of them, are able to just use their existing tech stack for segmentation, personalization, and weave that into their push notification strategy the same.
In addition to the topic of personalization, the other thing we're seeing a lot of conversation on right now is AI and VR. I'm curious to know how you see that impacting or influencing, the usage of these apps and how we can implement some of those technologies to enhance the experience there.
Gosh, it's hitting from all ends right now. It's really incredible what we're seeing in such a short period of time. AI is really changing the face of the way we do business, the way we talk to our customers, the way we interact. And so when you think about different ways AI is going to play a role in the mobile app space, specifically e-commerce mobile apps. It's going to come from multiple angles. First, we have our we recently deployed AI powered push notifications. In other words, help you start the conversation with your customer base using push notifications and the AI tool that's built within the platform that writes those for you, right? In the tones, the messaging, the style that would be on brand with the way you historically have communicated, right? So we have that natively built in, but then even beyond that, think of the concept of app building itself, right? So if we use, like, for instance, Tapcart as a chronology as an example, right? Tapcart was born with the ideology saying custom mobile app development is just a broken process, so expensive, takes so long to do. Brands are just not going to do it because the time to prove the app as a sales channel was just too long and too expensive. There's got to be a better way, and that's how it was born. But it was born as a no-code platform, drag and drop. But no-code platform, as beautiful as it is, and helping a brand get live in a fraction of the time and cost, it comes with its own challenges too, limitations. What the features are all that you have. And so that's where Tapcart then deployed something called custom blocks, where you see these merchants that want to do really crazy things inside their mobile app. Well, now they can build that on top of their app with Tapcart doing that. And so some of these are going to be a lot of, AI powered tools. There's already AI powered tools already in this Shopify ecosystem, or like Gorgeous in their chat is integrating AI. All these messaging mechanisms are integrating AI. And now when it comes to custom developing these new features, not only are these features going to be AI based, reading customer behavior inside the app and giving the brand more knowledge than ever about their customer by virtue of what AI is doing it within the app, but taking it even a step further, all these cool features, who's able to build these features? AI is custom coding these features on top of Tapcart 2 right now. So you see brands that say, I don't have a developer here, but I do have some AI tools that'll help custom code these features, copy, paste into the Tapcart dashboard, and boom, they just deployed a brand new feature in a matter of minutes. And that's what we're seeing right now. So you're seeing a lot of it's streamlining so many different processes, hitting from so many different ends, the back end management of the app itself, but then also what's front facing to the customer in improving that personalization over time as well.
So I'm curious to know, what challenges have you seen businesses face when implementing mobile apps in e-commerce, and if you have any advice for them overcoming those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think even at the elite level of performance, you see that these brand teams, these marketing teams, are built on the backs of like 3 or 4 humans, right? So much success has happened with these brands, but still hyper lean teams. And so I think one of the historical barriers to a brand launching an app has been thinking like, gosh, do I have enough bandwidth on this team of 3 to take on another sales channel, right? Or do I have the resources to effectively put enough behind this app effort to make it worthwhile, right? And so there's 2 schools of thought on how that can be addressed. First pertains to how we addressed it, and the other portion refers to how a brand can view it from an optics perspective, right? So first on our end, when you think of the concept of launching an app, it typically it's about a start to finish 2-week process, right? So you think of historically launching an app, it's like 9, 12 months and whatnot. Here it's 2 weeks, right? So super quick. So you think, okay, if it's 2 weeks, how much lift could it possibly take to get this thing up off the ground? Why? Because Tapcart's essentially doing it all for you. But more importantly, the fact that it only takes 2 weeks to get up and running is huge. And then on top of that, well, how do I continue to manage it? How do I continue to make the most of it, promote it? Well, Tapcart will do that for you too. Tapcart saw that as a problem of like brands were launching apps, but then not able to devote enough manpower to or woman power to pushing it and promoting it, and that's where we kind of took that on for them too. So we serve as an extension of every single brand on our platform. We serve as an extension of their team managing the app too. The other part is from the brand point of view. Many brands often have the challenge of kind of getting out of their own way. And let me rephrase what that means. It's when you think of mobile app, you often overcomplicate what it needs to be. That it needs to have these cool, fancy features. It needs to have virtual try on and all these cool things. And so when you think about that, that's where I think sometimes brands suffer from, analysis paralysis. In other words, overthinking what an app needs to be. When the reality is there are just consumers that prefer to shop from an app. For instance, if you love this health and wellness brand and you shop from a health and wellness brand and you've already bought from them before, now you want to go reorder again. Why are they making you log in over and over and over again? Every single time you go visit the brand, you got to log in all over again. That's 4 or 5 clicks right there just to be able to log in, assuming you remembered your password, right? From our perspective, there's customers that just prefer the shopping experience in an app. Have you ever shopped? I know you've shopped on Amazon, but have you ever shopped on Amazon from their mobile website, right? In other words, in the mobile. Okay, so I invite you to do that after this call. Check it out, and it's an absolute nightmare of an experience. It's clunky. It's slow. Every single time you click, it's loading the spinning wheel. The number of things you have to do as a customer, you have to log in every single time over and over again. This mobile websites is something that Amazon hasn't been able to solve yet in terms of the challenges of user experience. So if Amazon can't solve the mobile website, who is, right? And so when you think about Amazon the app now, you find yourself adding a bunch of stuff to the cart you didn't need. You find yourself clicking into Amazon, even if you're not looking to shop, but just because it's there, right? The ability to check out and choose, when you want it delivered. All of these things are so fast, make it so easy. And that's where we've been programmed as a society, is to think about like, hey, I do my shopping on Amazon in an app. I go order my car ride via Uber in an app. I wake up in the morning, check my meetings for the day via Google Calendar, an app. I need to communicate with my team via Slack, which is an app, right? And then all of a sudden I'm asking my customer to go to a website. That is, so at the end of the day, there are customers that just respond to it. And at the end of the day, if brands look at it from that lens, then they don't suffer from, it needs to have this cool augmented reality feature inside the app. They think it as just another sales channel, another touch point of meeting their customer where they are.
I like even the concept of, often when we talk about the customer journey, we talk about the moment that they've hit the website. But I think in the context of what you've just explained, you can really enhance that visual to be from the moment they're up in the morning. And like you said, it's the app. It's like, what is your first touch point in general with that customer, and just making sure that you show up there. Also love the analysis paralysis. I use that all the time. It's like definitely a saying over here. That's great. Well, I really appreciate all this, Neal. It's been so helpful. I'd love for you to just leave your top advice for e-commerce merchants out there. Doesn't have to be related to mobile apps, or just what you feel they need to hear right now.
Yeah, this doesn't necessarily apply to the app space, but I think one of the things that it's no secret that we're living through one of the most challenging D2C environments that we've experienced to date, right? So in addition to coming down from a normalization post-COVID, dealing with in a recessionary environment that we're in right now, dealing with more competition than ever before, dealing with rising customer acquisition costs, supply chain issues, all these things are amounting to a really difficult D2C environment, right? And so brands are focused or should be focused on just the concept of revenue efficiency. In other words, how can I do more with less? Because doing all the systems they implemented last year may work this year. It's just going to make less profit than they did last year, simply because everything else around it has become more difficult. And so that's where I invite every single brand to really reevaluate their tech stack. Do they really need that piece of tech? Do they really need that sales channel? Do they really need all these bells and whistles of things around their brand? Because at the end of the day, those are all going to have a limited capacity in the value they bring to the business, and you should really have a razor focus on keeping that profitability intact and managing customer acquisition costs. I think that's why there's been such a tailwind in the mobile app conversation, is because of that revenue efficiency component and really wanting to be able to manage those customer acquisition costs. So customer acquisition costs, we know that's a conundrum that will never essentially be totally solved. We know customer acquisition costs are going through the roof, making business less profitable over time. But the question is, what do we do with that customer once they come into that funnel? And those brands and businesses that give that the focus are going to find that they're going to come out on top, and they just need to stick. They just need to stick for the next 12 to 14 months, and everything's going to be fine once that plays out. But again, in that interim, revenue efficiency is essentially going to be everything.
I really, really appreciate that. For those who are wanting to connect with you and learn more about the work that you do, what's the best place for them to head there?
LinkedIn.
All right, perfect. Well, really appreciate your time, and thank you so much again.
Hey, thanks so much, Sav. It was a pleasure. Really had a blast. Thanks for having me.